I was raised on a farm in northern Indiana in a little white house with a dark basement. Now, in the basement, there was a potato cellar, there was a deep freeze, there was a room filled with shelves, and on the shelves were canned goods from the garden, peaches and green beans and pickles and tomato sauce, all of which my family had canned. And it was our job as the kids to run down to the basement and get whatever my mother needed for dinner. And we had to take turns. So early in the afternoon, one of us would have to go down to the basement, get into the deep freeze and get some meat. And then later on in the day, when it's closer to dinner time, we'd be sent down to the basement to get a jar of green beans. Then we might have to go back in a little bit to get some peaches or pickles. And then a few hours after dinner, we'd have to go down into the basement to get the ice cream. We'd bring it upstairs and make bowls of ice cream for everyone. And then, of course, we had to take the ice cream back down, put it back in the freezer. And for me, those were terrifying and traumatic trips. I was terrified of the basement because it was dark. And of course, you know, the light switch had to be at the bottom of the stairs, so you went down in the dark. You had to come back up in the dark. And then the next light switch was around a corner and down a hall. And of course, when it was my turn to go down to the basement, my sisters made sure to tell me about all of the things that were down there waiting for me in the dark. There were mice, and there were spiders, and there were hers and wiggers and ghosts and goblins and whatever else they could think of. So every time it was my turn to go down there, I went down making as much noise as possible. I stomped down those stairs and I sang at the top of my lungs. And that was my protection. So looking back on that, you know, engaging the practice of Sankofa, which is to look back and to remember and to find wisdom to bring forward into the future. So engaging in Sankofa and using the light of the Via Negativa, I began wondering how my life might have been different if I had been taught to enter that dark basement with gratitude, with awe. Because after all, that basement was filled with nourishment. It was filled with fruits and vegetables and ice cream. It was also a source of cleanliness. It's where we kept the washer and the dryer. And there was a second bathroom. The main living space was upstairs. There was one bathroom upstairs, and us four girls and my mom and dad, we all shared it. But how wonderful to have a second bathroom in the basement, even if it was surrounded by darkness. The basement was also a place of beauty. It was actually a walk-in basement. So if you entered the basement from the outside, you ended up in my mother's beauty shop. And don't think us girls didn't spend a lot of time doing our hair and doing each other's hair. So in hindsight, I really find it incredible that I was taught to fear the basement because it was dark. And sadly, the church just added to my fear of darkness by equating sin and hell with darkness. I really appreciate creation spirituality. And I appreciate the Via Negativa for giving me a different way to look at life.